On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, a major hit piece on Martin Short is out there. A lot of Hollywood people are coming to his defense, but it brings up one of the big problems with online media these days. Also, Disney Plus and ESPN Plus are coming to Spectrum Charter as a result of a new deal between Spectrum and Disney. Also, that highly anticipated movie that I'm really looking forward to, Dumb Money, has just played at the Toronto International Film Festival, and the first reviews are coming out. Also, we got to ask the question, should Mario Brothers and Barbie, which are called big successes as original films, but are they actually original films? The WGA is saying that they're willing to make deals with individual studios who are willing to break away from the AMPTP. And also the first trailer, the teaser, I should say, for Aquaman 2 is out there, but does anyone care? That and a whole bunch more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming to you from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world. Movies, movie news, TV, streaming, all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but giving you some information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or completely different from ours. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora.
Hey, what's up, Monday?
Jonathan Voico's here.
Hello, everybody.
Writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett is here.
I'm excited for Aquaman 2.
And by the way, writing an article for an upcoming big publication. We'll tell you about that more once he's got a little bit more in stone. And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Here's how the show's going to go. We're going to start off by talking about those topics that I listed off. Then the last part of the show, if we have time, we're going to get to some questions and topics sent in by our YouTube channel members. All right. With that all down, guys, let's jump into it. We're going to start off with this. Martin Short is a global treasure. That man is hilarious. Now, granted, let me admit my bias. He is not only a good Canadian kid, he grew up in my town. He's a Hamilton, Ontario, Canada kid. Went to my university, McMaster University, SCTV, Saturday Night Live. Guy's a genius. He's fantastic. However, the other day, major outlet The Slant wrote what I can only call a hit piece on Martin Short. And it's the kind of article that I think kind of represents all that is wrong with online media today. Now, look, let me preface this by saying this. There is no rule that says you have to like Martin Short. You can think Martin Short is the most unfunny guy in the world. You don't have to be entertained by Martin Short. After all, Martin Short is an artist. Art is subjective. If it doesn't work for you and it doesn't hit you that right way, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But this article was scathing, and I want to talk about a little bit about what was the motivation of this article? Why was this article even written in the first place? How it represents, a bigger problem in online media as a whole, both in blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels, outlets like Slant, and things like that. And also some of the hilarious responses that a lot of people in Hollywood have been giving to this article. Now, I'm not going to bring it up on screen, but I want to read you just something. This kind of highlights the Slant article. Let me read just a thing about it here. I find Martin Short's whole shtick exhausting, sweaty, and desperately unfunny. Throughout his evolution from sketch comedy standout to uneasy movie star to twice failed talk show host to enthusiastic song and dance man, I've wrinkled my nose. Every time he dresses up in a silly outfit or says something outrageous or mugs for the audience, I want to shout at my screen, why are you being like this? Now, this is basically the whole article, right? Runs through this whole article about all the reasons why Martin Short sucks. And again, let me emphasize, it's an art. Not all art or artists have to be your cup of tea, right? But there's a couple of highlights here. These comments were made as an article specifically just about why I hate Martin Short. Right? It wasn't in response to a new movie he's coming out where he's reviewing Martin Short's performance. Nothing wrong with saying, hey, I just watched this new Martin Short thing and I thought Martin Short was terrible in it. Look, that's part of the review process. Nothing wrong with that. But this wasn't that. It was literally just, I hate this guy and I'm going to tell the world why I hate him. And it's not in connection to anything being reviewed. It's not in connection to anything else. Now, look, there are actors in this world that I don't think are necessarily very good, but I don't make standalone videos about why this person just sucks. I mean, it might come up in conversation that I'll mention I don't particularly like this, but whatever. Now, this highlights a big problem in this world of stuff. But what's really funny, though, is you take a look at this. Some people in Hollywood have been coming to Martin Short's defense, if you will. Ben Stiller just wrote out, Martin Short is a comedic genius, end of story. Mark Hamill then wrote, it's hard to believe people are actually debating whether or not Martin Short is funny. Newsflash, he's hilarious. Anyway, the Variety article goes on and on about a lot of people jumping to Martin Short's defense. But again, the issue at hand isn't even, is Martin Short funny or is he not? Because maybe there's a lot of people watch this who don't necessarily think Martin Short is funny. But I have to ask the question, why is an outlet like Slant, and by the way, Slant is an outlet I like. I read, I'm not going to say I read Slant every day, I don't, but I read Slant at least once or twice a week. I really like Slant. I don't always agree with everything they say or do, but I actually think they're a very good outlet. I really do. And that's why it's especially concerning to me to say, why was this even written? Like, why is just creating a hit piece? And, it's funny, we have these conversations around the office here every once in a while that, we'll sit back and review the week of videos that we've made. And like, Jonathan, how many times have I lamented and moaned about like we'll look at our biggest performing things of the week and I'll go like we did this great video on this one topic and it did well, but this other video that was a negative video because we were reviewing something or talking about something and I had a negative feeling about it. So I had to give my negative feeling. It's always frustrating to me when we see that it's oftentimes the negative stuff that gets the most attention, right? And I get it. When you're an online outlet and you know that the trend is people will click more on stuff that's negative, that's trashing, that's causing drama or whatever. I understand the motivation to that. But again, I just think this kind of represents a lot of blogs, a lot of podcasts. You just go, you know what? Being negative sells, being a toxic or whatever in a certain way, that sells. So, and then you can recognize that because you go to a lot of YouTube channels or blog posts or whatever, and you look at every single one on them and every single one is about why this thing sucks. I'm angry at this. This is trash, blah, blah, like everything. And you kind of get what the motivation is. It's tough, but it kind of breaks my heart a little bit when I see an outlet that I like very much, like Slant, also kind of buying into that. But anyway, Rob, you had a chance to see what was going on here about this. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, Martin Short is currently in a show that I quite like, Only Murders in the Building.
Love that show.
And it's a great show, and he's great in it. And so here's the thing, John. I think that we have a real problem that there are people that have earned respect. If nothing else, Martin Short has made a decades-long career in the entertainment business, which is a really hard thing to do. I don't care whether you like Martin Short or not. The fact that he's still there swinging, that is worthy of respect. And for this writer, for Slant, I mean, I don't like to come out and go, well, what have you done? But really, what has he done? Why did he choose today to pick on Martin Short? What did he hope to achieve? Like, if you're a writer and you're writing something, what is it that you want people that are writing or reading what you've written to take away from this? And other than that this writer is an a-hole, what is the point? Why has he written this article? What am I supposed to learn from this, from what he's putting out into the world? I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of something like Three Amigos, but I don't think that that's...
I am.
I know a lot of people do. A lot of people love Three Amigos, but I'm like, I don't know why. Like, I've written a lot of critical things, and I've done a lot of critical episodes, but I've never gone after one person and just said, I hate everything you've ever done.
When it's not connected to something that's
not connected to anything. And I think that the biggest problem with, I think, our civilization as a whole is no one respects anyone anymore for anything. And, if you've managed to eke out a career in any kind of difficult profession, and show business is one of the most difficult, and he's got almost 50 years behind him, that alone, for no other reason, he's earned your respect. or he should have earned your respect.
This guy thought he was being brave and bold.
Well, I mean, look, and again, I don't want to make this about Slant because I use Slant as I felt comfortable using Slant as an example because they're actually an outlet that I like.
I do,
and I
me
like
too.
Quite a lot, right? So this isn't about them because I don't like talking about other outlets, but it's really more highlights the larger problem, right? Like, it's just a little stunning to see it come from a place like Slant. Like, we've gotten used to and accustomed to seeing, look, we know the darker corners of YouTube and blogging and podcasting and the internet. And we know we've come to expect this type of stuff from there. It's a little bit concerning when I start seeing it coming from here. Like, again, if a brand new Martin Short movie came out and they saw it and they said, and they thought Martin Short was terrible in it, review it, say you thought Martin Short was terrible in it, say why you thought he was terrible. It's all in context. And I just don't understand what was the point of this article and why is it relevant, like, at all right now, other than I just really want to take a shot at Martin Short, who is universally acknowledged by everybody in the business as one of the sweetest human beings in the world. I just don't understand what the motivation was. What, even in terms of, journalism, what, again, are you reviewing something? Does this have something to do with an award he's receiving and you feel this is an undeserved thing? Or is it just to, you know what? It's Monday. I'm in a bad mood. I'm going to take a shot at somebody and just try to bring them down. I don't get that. But anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Like, maybe listen, not everybody is a Martin Short fan. You don't need to be at all, but I don't know. What do you think about stuff like this? Whatever you think, jump down into the comments and let us know down there. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? We made a short video about this on the YouTube channel earlier today, but we've got to talk about it here in the podcast. 10 days ago came news. If you are a subscriber of Spectrum Charter, second largest cable provider in America, and you were watching a football game or the US Open, and all of a sudden your screen went blank, it was because Disney and Charter were going through a breakup. They had a little bit of a dispute. They couldn't agree on contract terms for Disney, which includes ESPN, FX, ABC, and some others as well, being on one of the channel offerings on Charter, Spectrum, and they disappeared. Well, they have now come to an agreement, but the agreement is crazy because not only are all these channels coming back to Spectrum and Charter, but a couple of other key pieces are coming as well, including Disney Plus is now going to be on Spectrum Charter, which means if you are a subscriber of Spectrum Charter, you don't have to go and subscribe to Disney Plus. You're going to have it. This comes to us from the folks over at The Verge who write the following. Disney and Charter have resolved the carriage dispute that blocked millions of viewers from watching ESPN, ABC, FX, and other Disney-owned networks. The two companies have reached a deal on Monday, which includes bundling the upcoming ESPN streaming channel, because ESPN's got their own standalone full streaming channel coming, is going to be bundled with Spectrum TV Select plan. They go on to write this. Part of the deal, Disney Plus's ad-supported plan will also come included with the Spectrum TV Select package, while ESPN Plus will be given to Spectrum TV Select Plus subscribers. There still isn't a timeline for when Disney could launch ESPN's standalone streaming service, but it's been something Disney has been considering for quite some time now. I don't want this to be one of these little details that just kind of flies by. This is major. You got to keep in mind that not that long ago, maybe even before your last birthday, the whole philosophy of the streaming networks are coming and they're going to kill cable and we're all going to get into this new utopia of streaming and blah, 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 hasn't quite worked out the way the streamers thought it would.
Yeah.
They've slowly becoming more and more like old cable TV anyway by now having ad-supported plans, so all that kind of stuff. Why I have to pay a subscription fee and still watch TV commercials is kind of beyond me a bit, but still, all that there. And now Disney Plus is going to be on cable. If you are a Spectrum Charter subscriber, you got Disney Plus. It's there. And you don't have to go out and pay however much Disney Plus is right now to get it. You're going to have to watch the commercials. It's going to be ad supported, but you're going to have access to the full library of Disney Plus. That's all the Star Wars content, all the Marvel content, all the classic Disney animation, all the Pixar, all Nat Geo, all that stuff. The whole library, you're going to have access to it for no extra money. ESPN Plus is coming over as well. That means more to me than it does to most of you. So, Rob, I said this morning, I'm of two minds in this, right? Like, on one hand, it's kind of, it's anti-productive, if you will. It's counterintuitive to the notion of we're building a subscriber streaming platform. We've often talked about this with physical media, right? We said, well, why would Disney Plus or Max or whatever put something out on DVD or Blu-ray and offer other options to people to get their content when what they really want is for people to sign up and become subscribers to their streaming network? Well, they've gone one step further now. They've put it on cable. It's going to be just another cable channel. Right. Now, on the other hand, I could see the advantage for Charter Spectrum is obvious. If there were a lot of people who might have been on the fence about, do I keep my cable? Do I become a cable cutter? This becomes just a huge incentive to just keep your cable package. For Disney, it does two things. One hand, Spectrum Charter is going to be paying them a generous licensing fee to have Disney Plus on there. But on top of that, with Disney's new ad-supported model, Disney just put their ads in front of 14 million more home subscribing eyeballs. Their ad revenue now is about to take a major jump.
Yes.
Because they've got all these people watching those commercials on Disney Plus. So I could see the advantages for Charter Spectrum. I can see the advantages for Disney. It's just, Rob, does this signify? I guess we started to see the philosophy of streaming networks change when they were all going back to the TV model of ad-supported plans. It's not about subscriptions anymore. But does this signify maybe even a bigger seismic shift happening, change coming in the world of streaming and cable? And is this the first domino to fall? Is this a isolated incident? I don't know. What do you think about this whole deal?
Well, I don't know about in terms of seismic shift. I think that streamers hope that streaming itself was the seismic shift. And to be honest, John, I thought that, okay, if a studio like Disney starts its own streaming service, they have this whole back catalog that is exclusive to Disney that they're going to put on that streaming service. But what they ended up doing was, now we have to make a bunch of shows for that streaming service and spend exorbitant amounts of money to do it, which negated what having a streaming service about your back catalog would do for you. So, which I think that wasn't really thought through very well. I mean, if you have a back catalog that's yours and you put it up on streaming and people pay for it, that's where your money comes from. If you're going to outspend what that streaming service is bringing in, you're negating the whole idea about having a streaming service in the first place because you're not making any money. In this case, all the streamers are now trying to figure out, well, how can we make even more money? And I think on one hand, Disney's doing something that's a good idea. But on the other hand, it seems to me that all directions point toward, let's go back to these old pre-streaming models that are ad-based, and we can because with advertising, each show is paid for by what it brought in via advertising dollars.
Yes.
And now you have not just a show, but you have to now have a whole service that is supported by ad dollars. So instead of one show paying for itself through ad dollars, you have one show perhaps paying for 100 shows via ad dollars, which doesn't seem to me like it's the best business model in the world. So in a way, they've kind of gone 2 steps forward and 1 step way back, but they're doing whatever they can because Disney, with all these stock prices plummeting, whatever they can do to make any kind of money to say to stockholders, look, no.
And I think there's going to be a really good positive response
I do
stock-wise
too.
with this announcement today.
Especially with those ad dollars, 14 million people seeing
I've always thought that what Disney, not always thought, I've gone back and forth on this, but lately I've really been on the mindset that what Disney Plus should just be is just be the online catalog, right? Forget making originals. You don't need to make Disney Plus originals. Put out, if you want to make a Marvel show, put it on ABC. Get the eyeballs on it, get ad revenue for it, and then once it's aired on ABC, say, now you can watch it on its permanent full-time home on Disney Plus. Put out a new Star Wars movie, and then say, okay, we're making all the movie and money in the theaters, and now become a subscriber to Disney Plus. You can watch all Star Wars, including this one. That this is the place that all those shows and all those movies you've been enjoying, that's where it's going to go. And just don't make originals. Just make it the depository.
That's what I thought the point for a studio to have a streaming service would be. The things that we're making for all of these other venues are going to wind up and feed our subscription service. And it hasn't turned out that way, which is wild.
Yeah, totally crazy. Absolutely crazy. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes. And you know what? For some consumers, not all, but for some consumers, this is going to be pretty good. That if you want your cable and you want Disney Plus, you got one less thing you got to subscribe to now. You're going to have it there. So, I mean, I see the positives, but it's also really interesting to me. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Every year at CinemaCon, a couple of movies that have maybe been flying under our radar, we haven't been paying much to. It never fails, Rob. Every year, there's always one or two movies that we walk away from CinemaCon going, oh my God, I wasn't giving that movie much thought, but now I can't wait for it. One of those movies for me this year was Wicked. Didn't care about Wicked till they showed us that presentation for Wicked.
Presentation.
Oh my God, that looks so good. But the other one that I was interested in but not paying a lot of attention to was this new movie with Paul Dano called Dumb Money. Dumb Money, which I love this poster, by the way. Dumb Money, which basically is a movie documenting, it's not a documentary, but documenting the events surrounding the GameStop and to a lesser degree AMC meme stock things that kind of flipped Wall Street on its ear, right? And listen to the cast. Paul Dano leads it. That guy, I've been a huge fan of his ever since There Will Be Blood. Pete Davidson, Vincent D'Onofrio, American Ferrera, Nick Offerman, Anthony Ramos, Seth Rogen, Sebastian Stan, Shailene Woodley, and it goes on. Dane DeHaan, who I haven't seen Dane DeHaan in a long time, and I thought he's amazing. He's fantastic. Anyway, Dumb Money just played at TIFF, and it's getting really solid reviews. As of right now, with 28 major critics coming in who are at the Toronto International Film Festival, not the most famous film festival in the world, but I honestly think it's the most important film festival in the world is TIFF. 86% right now for Dumb Money. And again, Paul Dano, who is just incredible and coming off his amazing turn as Riddler in Matt Reeves' The Batman, which everybody started realizing, oh, this guy's actually really good. Yeah, he is. He's fantastic. If it wasn't for the fact that Daniel Day-Lewis gave maybe the greatest performance in the history of film in There Will Be Blood, a lot more people would be talking about Paul Dano because Paul Dano was so good in that movie. Anyway, Rob, you were there. You saw the presentation for this. It looks hilarious. Getting really, not 100%, not 95, but getting really solid reviews. And it's coming out soon. Where's your expectation level right now for Dumb Money?
John, I can't wait to see this movie. I mean, first of all, the subject fascinates me. I'm like a Big Short guy. I've probably seen The Big Short 100 times. I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been seeing a lot of these, whether it was Tetris, whether it's BlackBerry, whether it was Air, kind of these business movies about
how this came about movies.
Yeah.
And it started with Social Network is basically that as well.
Absolutely. And I just watched my 4K disc of it the other day. And I watched this trailer. I've seen this trailer probably 6 or 7 times. This movie looks great. It looks right up my alley. The cast, obviously, you just pointed out, is incredible. But it has that, I like to understand, how does the modern world work? And I don't know enough about finance, but I'm fascinated by it. And I mean, the idea that somebody decided to make this into a movie, for me, it's going to be an education. But it's also going to be, it looks hilarious. I mean, this cast is clearly having a ball. It's the kind of thing that I find wildly entertaining, and I can't wait to see this movie.
You know what? It drew attention. Again, I invest, but I'm not, I'm no Jonathan Voico. Let's just say that. I don't.
But who is really?
No, it is really. I don't know the ins and outs of the stock market and investing and stuff like that. But I've always had, it really brings it brought the spotlight onto something that I've always felt was really shady in the world of finance, which is the whole idea of shorting stock. Like that you stand to get rich off that thing failing. There seems to be an inherent conflict in that, right?
Yeah.
And this is about people who took that, turned it on its head, cost a lot of billionaires a lot of money, and made a lot of money for some other people. I cannot wait to see this
Seeing
thing.
it Wednesday.
When does it come out?
It's this week, but I'm seeing.
Is this week? I thought it was in 2 weeks. It's this week's.
You know, maybe so, but I'm seeing it on Wednesday.
At AMC Investor Day?
It's not even that. You would think of it, and it'd be a perfect Investor Connect one, you'd think. But it just said advanced screening. So I think it's 1 day early. So I think it's this week.
Because, you know, I mean,
A fan screening.
the events of this movie is why the world's largest movie theater chain is still in business.
Right.
AMC theaters would have been shut down and out of business by now if it wasn't for this thing.
It says September 29th for the release.
For the official release, maybe that's just an early screening. I got to see if I can get tickets to this early
Oh,
screening.
yeah. There are early ones by the 15th, which is Wednesday. But
All
yeah,
right.
the official is next week.
Because I cannot wait to watch this movie, man. Ever since they showed us that presentation, Nick Offerman looks absolutely hilarious in it. Seth Rogen comes across as great in it. Can't wait to see this. All right, guys, listen. We still got a number of things to talk about here. Like, should we be considering the two biggest movies of the year, Barbie and Mario? Should those even be considered original movies? WGA making claims that they're willing to make deals with individual studios if they break away from the AMPTP. Also, the first teaser for Aquaman 2 is out. But before we get to those, we're going to take just a second here and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Our friends at MasterClass, and I got them on my feet right now. A new sponsor here on the show, Vessi. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, MasterClass. Guys, you know, as a small business owner, I am finding myself having to be in negotiations all the time, whether it's with new contractors, vendors, or even agencies that represent our company. Now, I don't like to go into these negotiations unarmed, so I found the perfect class on MasterClass, The Art of Negotiation by Chris Voss, a real-life former FBI lead hostage negotiator. Taking this class on MasterClass made me feel a lot more equipped and confident going into all these various negotiations I have to do on a regular basis. With MasterClass, you can learn from the best to become your best anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. An annual membership starts at just $10 a month, and you get unlimited access to every instructor, thousands of online lessons, exclusive content, insight, and much more. There are over 180 classes to pick from, everything from filmmaking with Martin Scorsese all the way to cooking with the great Gordon Ramsay. In MasterClass, you will find practical lessons that you can apply to your life and work. So guys, get unlimited access to every class, and right now, as a John Campea Show listener, you can get 15% off when you go to masterclass.com/Campea. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off an annual membership. masterclass.com/Campea. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Vessi. Now, like me, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of Vessi, the shoe that claims to be incredibly comfortable and waterproof on top of that. Well, these claims are really interesting to me because as a Canadian who walked around in a lot of snow, and as somebody who likes to go camping and hiking with his wife on the weekends, there's nothing more uncomfortable and horrible than walking around in wet feet. So after receiving my first pair of Vessis and noticing how incredibly good looking the shoes are and how mind-boggling comfortable and flexible they are, the first thing I did was I took them into the backyard to put it to the supreme waterproof test and dipped my feet in my pool. Guys, my feet were bone dry, and like 20 seconds after having them in the pool and I touched them, the shoes themselves were also bone dry. Guys, seriously, these shoes are stupidly comfortable, they look great, and they absolutely lived up to the claim of being waterproof and keeping my feet dry. I absolutely love my Vessi shoes. So guys, if you want shoes that are good looking, are ridiculously comfortable, and on top of all that waterproof, you need to head to vessi.com/Campea and get yourselves a pair today. Go to vessi.com/Campea and get shoes for your best summer yet. And thank you to our friends at MasterClass and Vessi for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get into our next topic here. And that has to do with, you know, the two biggest movies of the year are Mario Brothers and Barbie. And a lot of people in celebrating, we talked about it the other day, that this is the first time in over 20 years that the top three movies of the box office do not have a sequel in them. You know, original films. But the topic of today's Mint Mobile Hotline question of the day is, should we consider these things as originals? And that is, as I said, today's Mint Mobile Hotline question of the day. Listen, guys, if you have a topic or a question for the show and would like to hear your voice on our show, go ahead and call our hotline number anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259. Every day we pick out one or two questions to address. And again, today is Barbie and Mario even original films? Check it out.
Hey, John and Cruz. I'm calling about the top grossing movies of the year and how they're continuously called original in their theatrical success. A movie like Barbie and a movie like Mario are both based on iterations of an IP that has been used for 30 to 50 years or more. So I wonder, is it not just that the content itself was an original script for 2023, but how it is compared overall to the fact that it is a valuable IP that has been marketed and used for generations and generations. Thanks for taking my question, and don't have a good day. Have a great one.
All right, man. Thanks a lot for calling that in. And yeah, look, before the movie Barbie came out, I think it's fair to say many of us have heard of Barbie. Before the Super Mario Brothers movie came out, I think it is fair to say that all of us have heard of Mario Brothers. As a matter of fact, there was a Mario Brothers movie. None of us like to talk about it. Nintendo certainly doesn't like us to talk about it. Happened many years ago, but still that was there. And it is their world famous IPs that generations know about. So how on earth are they called original films? Well, I totally get the question. Because, I've wondered it too, but I am firmly on the side that yes, these are original films and they are fairly called those because look, even if we look at the definition for what would be considered an adaptation, is it based on a previous work? And the reality is, while there is a thing called Barbie and a thing called Mario Brothers, neither the Mario Brothers movie nor the Barbie movie were based on any previous work. It's not like there was a novel of Barbie or an original cartoon that followed that storyline or an original, piece of something that of Mario Brothers that follows storyline. It was an adaptation of that or a follow-up to something like that. It is quite literally, granted, you might want to put a little bit of an asterisk on that because it was not original like Avatar was original, right, Rob? Because there was no Na'vi, there was nothing that had ever existed with that IP, right?
Right.
Other than maybe Dances with Wolves. But aside from that, or Fern Gully, as some people.
But Dances with Wolves was based on a book.
Yeah, it was. And here's the thing: Barbie is a purely original work. Yes, the plastic doll Barbie existed, but that had nothing to do with the story, the movie, whatever. It was a purely original work. So, Rob, I could see the debate. I can see the question. And I don't necessarily think people who take the position that it's not an original work are wrong. I'm just saying for me, where I'm at right now, I look at this and I say, you know what? It checks all the boxes for what is an original work. I believe it is fair to call both Mario and Barbie original movies, even though it's a little bit different than some others who would be considered. How would you look at that?
Well, look at the Academy Awards. You have an original screenplay or best adapted screenplay.
Right.
I think if there hasn't been something in the medium of motion pictures, it's an original motion picture. It doesn't matter if it's derived from a previously existing IP. If it's a movie and it's the first time, like there's never been a Barbie movie before. So, and if you look at everything, it's one thing to have a line of dolls. It's a whole different thing to have a movie with a plot, with situations and locations and actors. And there's so much more that's involved in making a movie than making a toy line. It's a very different thing. So I would say that you have to consider a movie like Barbie an original film, but of course it's based on a previously existing IP. But as a motion picture, it's original. Just like I think any adaptation of a great literary work, there's been how many movies based on books? Thousands. And I would consider them like, To Kill a Mockingbird. Gregory Peck's To Kill a Mockingbird, that he stars in. That's an original film. The Shawshank Redemption, Little Women, take your pick.
But even for those, you can make the argument that for those, they are adaptations of previously existing work, stories.
But they are original films.
Sure.
The adaptation. That's how I would define it. That the medium of motion pictures is itself different enough from some other IP that as a motion picture, it's an original movie.
So, like the movies you just listed off, To Kill a Mockingbird. In the Oscars, those would be under the category, in the Oscar categories of screenwriting, those would fall under the adapted screenplay
Yes.
thing. So you would consider even things that qualify as adapted screenplay as purely original
as a
works.
movie, because he asked for original movies. You know, the medium of motion pictures is different than books. It's different from plays. I mean, sometimes they've even they've taken the title of a rock song, you know, like,
Yeah, that's true.
and then made a movie out of that. And I would say that it's an original film. Maybe it's splitting hairs, but you can't say that there's never been a Barbie movie before. So it's an original movie.
See, I take it even one step further than that, because I look at it as like, you know, To Kill a Mockingbird, things like that, Da Vinci Code, based on the book. The Barbie movie was not based on anything, right? There
Right.
was no previous cartoon that followed the storyline of the Kens taking over Barbie Land or
Right.
or the particular story that, like, so it was, yeah, you had a thing, but there was no work around that thing that this movie is an adaptation of. So and that's why I'm saying I agree it's a little bit of a gray area, and I think you're right, Rob. It's a little bit of splitting hairs, but that's why I would fall on that side of it.
Well, even like Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet,
Yes.
based on Shakespeare's play, but Shakespeare's play didn't have like a Prince song in it, and it wasn't set, you know, Verona was not Mexico City or something, and so it was a very different and unique, and I would dare say original take on Shakespeare's work. So you can have, even though it's an adaptation, it's certainly a very original kind of an adaptation. It's not a direct adaptation.
You know what I thought was one of the most creative things in that movie? Because in Baz Luhrmann's version, they still follow the text
Yes.
of Shakespeare, right? That means the dialogue is all there. I still remember the one that made me go, wow, was when they went, you know, they get to the thing about draw your swords.
Right.
And they have guns, but the brand name of the gun was sword.
Yeah.
So it's like they found a way to make it perfectly fit with the text of it. Again, that is an adaptation movie, but is a wildly original adaptation
Right.
movie.
So,
I loved
and
it.
you know, and that wasn't even the first time you got Zeffirelli's traditional adaptation. So it's an interesting question.
All right. Thank you again for calling in that question. Don't forget, guys, if you have a topper question, you'd like to hear it on it, go ahead and call our hotline number at the number that we had up there a little bit earlier, 951-268-4259. All right. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? And we'll try not to take too long on this topic, because I think both Rob and I could probably get going on this for another 40 minutes or so. But we all know that the SAG is on strike, the Screen Actors Guild, and the WGA has been on strike for over 4 months now. And recently, the WGA just made a really interesting statement saying that they would be willing to make deals with individual studios that are willing to break away from the AMPTP. Right now, the AMPTP is the organization, is the collective bargaining organization representing the major studios in both television and movies. Disney, Warner Brothers, CBS, ABC, Netflix, Amazon, all that kind of stuff, right? They all fall under the AMPTP. And the WGA is saying, look, for example, if Paramount wanted to split off from the AMPTP, we're willing to make a deal with them so our writers can go and do work on Paramount things. Now, some people in the WGA are saying that would be problematic, because then it means you have some WGA writers working and others not working, and saying it would kind of divide the union. I get that concern. I do. I think that's a valid thing to bring up. I like that. But here's the thing. WGA is also making claims to their membership that executives from these studios are coming to them saying, we would love to sign your deals. This comes to us from IndieWire, who wrote the following. The WGA now says that they've spoken with executives who have claimed that the WGA proposals would not affect their company's bottom line, and that they're being asked to give up more than they'd like to as a part of the broader negotiations. Another said that they need a deal badly. It continues, other proposals the AMPTP says are deal breakers the Guild claims certain execs are willing to talk about. On every single issue we're asking for, we have had at least one legacy studio executive tell us they would accommodate us, the Guild wrote. Now, it needs to be pointed out here that this claim that the WGA is saying, we've spoken to execs from studios, said, we we love all the terms you're asking for. We'll give in to them right away. The AMPTP has put out a joint statement saying that that's bullshit. That's not the wording they used, but they say this is completely not true that they're saying this. Now, what we do know for fact is that there are several studios in the AMPTP that are more amenable to and more agreeable to a lot of the things that the WG is asking for than some other members. Again, I can only tell you that I've heard two of the big holdups in the AMPTP are Netflix and Amazon, whereas other studios like Warner Brothers, Paramount, Disney may be a lot more flexible to some of the things that the WG is asking for. But I have also been told in no uncertain terms, there's not a single one of those studios that is, as the WG is claiming, is open to everything the WGA is asking for. None of the studios like the writer room minimums that the WG is asking for, which is clearly them being out of touch with the times, to be honest with you. And I'm in agreement with the WG on 90% of the stuff that they're asking for. And I think 90% of the things that the WG is asking for would honestly be in the studio's best interest to agree to anyway. But I know none of the studios really want to go for the writers room minimums, and none of them like the way. I think the WGA is out of touch with they're trying to apply 1980s style residual models to a 2020s reality of streaming world that doesn't work the same. But still, Rob, could you see a reality here where maybe the AMPTP just says to each other, because the AMPTP used to be great because everybody was doing the same thing, right? They were doing TV and movies. But now in a streaming world as well, it seems like you have some members that have certain priorities, members of the AMPTP, and other members of the AMPTP that have different priorities. Do you think maybe the AMPTP itself is outdated at this point? Do you think individual deals could be signed here?
I think you're right, because look, if you look at Apple and you look at Amazon, their primary business is not making content. Their primary business is Amazon is selling product that has nothing to do with movies and TV. And Apple is also selling their own technology. And so making movies and things is an adjunct to their core business. So they're not like movie studios, which has a core business, which is making movies and television. So already at the very basis of this, they are sort of at odds with one another. Which is interesting and unique, because Amazon and Apple can actually afford to pay what the Writers Guild wants and not even blink. But because they're collectively bargaining, it can't be. Look, John, to answer your question, I could see this changing the business. If the AMPTP is in fact outmoded, and maybe they are. I mean, maybe it's time for people to ask themselves, okay, how is this going to work moving forward? The way that movies and television even exist in our culture has changed. And movies don't have the power that they once had, whereas streaming 10-part TV shows maybe are even more important than they used to be. So things are different than they were. And like you pointed out, they're looking at older models that they want to apply to paradigm shifting industries. And I think that it really, and that's part of the problem. That's part of the, I think what's happening here is you've got old school thinking and new school reality that isn't jibing with one another. And they have to figure out how to navigate this, which is one of the big problems here. And it's the longer that this strike goes on, I mean, at the end of the day, who needs who more?
You know, it's funny. Last night, what we were watching, thank God NFL is back. Oh, I'm not going to go into it. Sorry about your Seahawks.
Not a good day, though, in the NFL for a lot of people.
But, I mean, watching NFL, thrilled sitting down watching football again, missed it so much. But as we're watching football, I think we were watching the game that was on Fox. They started running a bunch of commercials for their shows they've got coming up, right? All of them were new game shows. All of them were new game shows, or some form of traditional game show or reality TV based competition game show. And we're watching all these commercials, and we're like, a bunch of us are there, and we're like, you know, the one thing in common with all of these, none of them require WGA writers. they're all, and I think I think it's by design. I think that's on purpose. They're putting together all this crap. It's like, yeah, we don't need writers on these. Here we go. We're going to make this content. And it's like, if that's the future of television, I don't want to watch TV. Because it's like, it was very concerning. But you know what? Chris often points out, this is exactly the type of thing we started to see happening during the last writer strike. That's what really brought on this whole new era of quote unquote reality television, was because writer strike, television networks turned to other things. And it's become a kind of a big thing. And it's like, man, I really want this writer's strike to get resolved soon, because I don't want the stuff I saw in commercials yesterday is not the future I want for TV.
Well, and also, we're in a position where look at the depressed stock price of whether it's Paramount or whether it's Disney, and the fact that movie theaters are precarious in their business models now. This is not the time where so many other businesses are affected by this. I think it's undermining everybody. It'd be nice to see this resolved soon.
Well, you know what? Disney and Spectrum Charter were able to get the deal made. So hopefully Disney and Warner Brothers and Paramount can find a way to get a deal done here sooner than later. But we've been saying that for months. All right. With that down, guys, now let's move on to this, shall we? I mentioned a little bit earlier that I was got to sit down and watch some football this weekend. That was great. Loved it. By the way, I told y'all, don't sleep on the Detroit Lions this year. I told you. Anyway, one of the things that did come up in play, though, out of nowhere, very surprisingly, was the first teaser, and it truly is a teaser, a 30-second teaser, for Aquaman 2, The Lost Kingdom. It is out there now. We've had questions come in recently. Remember people asking John, Aquaman's coming out in 4 months. When do you think we're going to see the first trailers? I said probably within the next 3 weeks, we're going to see the first trailers. And sure enough, we got the first teaser. Now, the first teaser is very much a trailer to the trailer, because even the teaser starts with, in 4 days, the full trailer. We are literally playing trailers to trailers. Still, it was a full 30-second thing. Gave us our first glimpse of some of the visuals in the film. We also got a good bit of Black Manta saying, I'm going to destroy Aquaman and everything that he loves and all that kind of stuff, right? Some clashing, some visual effects. I'm going to tell you what, for a 30-second drop in the bucket tease, I thought it looked like a lot of fun. I really did. I thought it looked like a lot of fun. And, we've been hearing a lot of nightmare things about the movie and its production and everything else, and the death of the DCU and the terrible state the DCU is in. But all that aside, I still think this looks like a lot of fun, and I'm very excited to see the trailer. But it got me wondering, even if everybody agrees with me the trailer looks good, does anybody care? Because we've talked a lot lately about the DCEU of the last 5 years, the last 7 movies. None of them have made over $400. And a couple of those movies have been really damn good. I mean, I still contend, I don't care what anybody else says, Flash was a really great movie, but it blew it. It fell on its face at the box office. Couldn't even make $300 million. Totally flopped on its face. Blue Beetle is quite an entertaining little film. I like Blue Beetle. It just crossed $100 million. It's not even going to get to $200 million. I mean, that's just the state. So I got to wonder, is anybody going to go see Aquaman 2? I just don't know. So Rob, I got 2 questions for you. My first question is, as somebody who loved the first Aquaman movie, what did you think of this teaser? And then number 2, regardless of how good the teaser is or the trailer that comes, is anybody still interested in seeing a DC project at this point before the thing gets rebooted in 2025? What do you think?
Well, a lot of the online fan press would say that the state of the DC universe would have something to do with audience anticipation. But the first Aquaman was one of Warner Brothers' most successful films of all time. Right up there.
The only DCU film to make over $1 billion.
Made $1 billion. I mean, it was a big hit. I loved it. It harked back to watching Ray Harryhausen movies when I was a little kid. I've talked a lot about how I enjoyed it. I saw it with you. You and I went together when we first saw it. I'm really excited about this movie. I know that we've heard all kinds of things about its test screenings, and it was supposed to come out a year ago.
Yeah.
They've had a year to fix it or whatever, if it needs fixing or whatever. Movies are obviously iterative. I mean, come on, dude, look at that. I want that. I'm so into this movie. I am rooting for it, John. I love James Wan. The man is the franchise king. Saw, Insidious, the Conjuring universe, all James Wan. And he comes out and he worked in Fast and Furious, made $1.5 billion there, made $1 billion with Aquaman. So I'm hoping that this film turns out to be great. It looks like it's a lot of fun. I hope that we don't have to say that Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom euphemistically is really talking about the entire DCEU being a lost kingdom. I hope that's not the case. I really do. I want this movie to be good. I, for one, am excited about it.
And beyond James Wan, I just love Jason Momoa.
I do too.
And he was the one shining thing in that terrible Fast X movie. He was, every moment he's on screen, and I'm like, this is infinitely watchable. He's great. I love him. I love seeing this kind of success. Although it does bring up the question again. Remember, a number of months ago, maybe 5 months ago, he put up that post on social media, a video of himself on Warner Brothers lot, filming himself on his camera, walking out and goes, guys, I just had the meeting of a lifetime. It's like, whoa, yeah. I can't wait to tell you guys about what I'm doing and what's coming. A lot of us assume he's going to be Lobo, but clearly he's got his next DC character that he's going to play, and I don't think any of us think it's going to be Aquaman moving forward. So it's going to be interesting to see what that is. This is not just the closing chapter on Aquaman, but the closing chapter of the DCEU, the final thing to play before James Wan reboots it in 2025 with Superman Legacy. We'll see how that all goes.
You know what? It's opening up in between. We got I lost it. It's Wonka and the Color Purple.
Yep.
It's a packed
sandwich
month
in between there. If this teaser came out when this movie came out when it originally supposed to come out with Avatar 2, like going up against Avatar
Another
2.
water movie.
If they showed this teaser, I would have still been excited because it's different. It's like the colors that he uses. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, it has this very visually unique style. I'm excited for the movie too. I'm looking forward to, obviously, Thursday, the trailer drops. We'll talk more about it then. All right, guys. With all that down, we're not going to move over and start taking topics and questions from our YouTube channel members. But before we get to that, we're going to take another break here and thank a couple of more sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Our friends at DraftKings, thank goodness NFL is back, and my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this episode, DraftKings. Football is back and in full swing with another week of epic games. And who's got you covered on the action for every single one of them? DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Nobody's missing out on all the action this season. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. So get in on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use the code Campea to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code Campea. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. See dkng.co/football for eligibility, terms, and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Signing your life away to a big wireless provider is kind of like being trapped on a roller coaster from hell. Sure, it looks like fun at first. They probably even threw in a free phone, but now you can't get off. Month after month of insane bills and unexpected thrills, like overages and surprise fees. If that sounds like your current big wireless plan, it's time to get off the ride with Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are just $15 a month. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for just $15 a month. You guys know before before I came to Mint Mobile, I was paying triple what I am paying now on the standard big wireless plan, and I will never go back. All plans come with unlimited talk, text, and high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. To get your new unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped right to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at DraftKings and, of course, Mint Mobile for sponsoring this episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that out of the way, let's get over to our YouTube channel members' questions here. Jonathan, what do we got up here first?
Dr. Stinky's first. Hey, John and crew, no question today. Just wanted to say it's been 1 year as a member now. Time flies like y'all. Hope and you had a good time in Vegas. Bring on the filthy.
Very nice bare naked lady shout out there. It's been 1 week since you looked at me. Yeah, by the way, one of the great songs of all time. Just had to throw it out there. Hold me now and watch a hoodwink. Make you stop think. You think you're looking
What
at
have I done?
Demonetized.
like fish like sushi because
You
never
know
touch
what
a
you
fine
did.
fan. Okay, I love bare naked ladies. Anyway, thank you for being a member for so long, man. Like it just feels like yesterday that we opened up YouTube channel memberships, but we've had a number of people hitting like their 1 year anniversaries of being YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for being a supporter and for being one of our members, man. All right, what's next?
Sky UK, JCSE writes, Sky UK has included streamers like Netflix and Paramount Plus with some of its packages for about a year now. How come the Disney Plus deal with Spectrum is more of a significant shift?
Good for UK. It's been different. Like there's also been a thing I think in India. What they had is something called Sky in India that would have like all of Disney Plus's content on it and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a thing in international markets for a bit, but it's not been what they've done here. And for Disney Plus in its own domestic market to make that kind of shift, saying, you know what, everything's going to be on a cable network now. I mean, I don't want to oversell it. And I may, as we see things unfold over the next couple of weeks, I might feel differently. But right now it feels like the imminent demise of cable television that we've all believed we've seen coming, it may not happen now. I mean, if these streaming things are going to put all their content on cable as well, that just probably threw cable a really big lifeline. I don't know if you agree with that or not, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, it could. It's just, again, it just seems like it's more treading water than creating new paradigms, which I think we need. I mean, we're falling back, or they're falling back into old ways of doing business. And I think that's become problematic, is that, you know, people aren't thinking things through. They're jumping into things very quickly, and then they're having to backpedal, which I think is unfortunately where we're at now. And this is one of the problems that the industry as a whole is having. And I don't quite understand it.
Well, I mean, it's tough if you're one of these streamers. Like everybody thought, especially during the pandemic, that this new streaming world was going to be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Everybody's going to be making money hand over fist. And it just didn't work out that way. Everybody's losing money. And we've seen them slide, like you pointed out, we've seen them sliding back into the old TV model for a while now, right? Adapting ad-supported tiers, so they're just a TV channel at that point, if we're going to have commercial breaks. And now seeing them actually going right back to cable. I mean, again, I cut the cable 10 years ago, so I'm not the person in this demographic, but I can totally see a lot of people who might have been on the fence about becoming cable cutters to going, oh, so ESPN, Disney Plus, all that stuff is just going to be part of my cable package? Well, maybe I'll stick around. I could see it making it. I don't know what. Yeah, I like the way you put it. Is it treading water, or is it a new paradigm? I think we're going to need a little bit of time to find out.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Red One Real Talk writes, John, your friends weren't kidding. Linus is insane. How does Taylor Sheridan keep pumping these stories out? I started Friday night and couldn't pull myself away from it this weekend.
Taylor Sheridan is a fucking machine. Like, he has not made a series yet, other than, what was it called? 1923?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because I loved 1883. I love Yellowstone. Like, love. I really enjoyed the King of Tulsa. I desperately love Mayor of Kingstown. And I didn't love 1923. This is the one I didn't love. But this dude is a machine. And I haven't started watching Lioness yet. Ann and I are planning to sit down and watch the whole series. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it, that Taylor Sheridan does it again. But this is also he's one of the representative examples of the problem between the AMPTP and this WGA. The WGA, one of the sticking points is that the WGA, understandably, they want a minimum sized writer's room for every show that they do. You've got to employ 10 writers, right? For a show. You got to have a writer's room with 10 writers. Now, normally, that's the way some of the best TV shows have been made, having really good, vibrant, diverse writers' rooms of creative, talented people making shows. But then you get Taylor Sheridan, who writes it himself. And who's going to say to Taylor Sheridan, well, no, you're not allowed to write it by yourself, Taylor. You got to hire, a network has to hire people they don't need. They got to hire 9 more writers to come in and give 9 more writers credit and residuals maybe, when they're like, we don't need them. We have Taylor. Nope, he's not Tyler. He's not allowed to write stuff by himself. That's becoming a problem. And so it's going to be interesting. What's been your favorite Sheridan show so far?
That's a good question. I mean, I have to tell you, when you first start watching Lioness, you're going to be like, wow, this is really good. But I think overall, I got to tell you, Tulsa King, maybe my favorite.
It's also the most different from all the shows
It's
done,
different,
right?
but I never. I just watching Sylvester Stallone is having such a good time playing that part. It's just fun to watch. And look, to be fair, I think Taylor Sheridan's magic special sauce is that he takes familiar stories from other things that we all know and love, and he's able to repurpose them in a new and unique way. So he really understands these formulas that he's working in and sort of making it work and making it fresh, and he can apply this to almost any paradigm. He's kind of a genius.
Well, like the way they're repurposing it, right? Think about it. Yellowstone, I think the best show on television, right? It's basically The Godfather, because you got Kevin Costner is Marlon Brando, right? I can't remember the name of the actor who plays his youngest son. That's Michael Corleone. You've got I forget the actor's name again, but the guy who plays the lawyer brother, he's Fredo. You got Beth, who is basically Sonny.
Right.
Right? I mean, so he takes these familiar things, but puts a fresh spin on them, a modern context, just does this great stuff with it.
Well, and he takes something classic and highbrow, like The Godfather, and mixes it with Dallas.
Oh yeah,
like the soap opera
Yes.
nature of that sort of irresistible, the kind of the trashy interpersonal relationship storytelling, and that's kind of brilliant.
Yep, and it works.
And he's doing that with all of these different kinds of things to a certain degree in a different way.
By the way, his movies ain't so bad either.
Nope.
Hell or High Water, Wind River.
Yep.
I mean, Sicario. I mean, this dude is like one of the brightest and best in the business today. He's incredible. All right, we got time for a couple more. What's next?
Alan writes, hi, Campea crew. Over the weekend, I was thinking about Deadpool 3. I can't wait for this movie, and it makes me sad that we have to wait longer to see it due to the strikes.
Guys, there's not a movie coming out that I'm more excited for than Deadpool 3. I love the first 2 Deadpool films. I think the whole world's been waiting for Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds to do this again. We've all wanted to see Hugh Jackman take one more swing at the bat as Wolverine. He's clearly committed to it. And like we've seen his workout videos. I mean, that dude's a machine. Cannot wait for this. It does suck that the strikes have postponed it. They haven't postponed it too terribly long. So let's all keep our fingers crossed for everybody involved, the writers, the actors, and everybody else can for everybody's good sake, that a good compromise deal can be made here quickly, because I don't want to wait any longer for Deadpool 3.
And remember, they're in post as well. So they're not working on it. They're cutting together what they've already shot,
Right.
which is allowing them to hone their craft. There's probably visual effects people working too.
I'm actually friends with somebody who's working on visual effects for the film. I mean, they've not done their principal photography, but there's work being done.
Yes.
All right, last question of the day. What's next?
Jay Superboy writes, hey, John, saw the teaser trailer for Aquaman. I got to say, it put me from a 2 to 11 real quick when he says, I'm going to kill Aquaman and destroy everything he holds dear. Gave me chills.
I wonder if Nicole Kidman dies in this movie. I mean, that would be something, right? Like we see his dad's house on fire.
The dad
and,
might.
Yeah, he might. By the way, one of the best things in The Flash was Tamora Morrison's quick cameo as Aquaman's dad. I love that shot. Anyway, listen, I agree with you. Like, look, I really like the first Aquaman movie. I love Jason Momoa, James Wan. Looking forward to Aquaman 2, despite everything else. But this little 30-second teaser really lit a fire under me. Like, it moved me from, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Aquaman 2 to, wait a minute, I'm excited to see Aquaman 2. So I don't know. What did it do for you?
Well, I was already excited, but yeah, man, it looks fun. I mean, it looks like I'm getting what I wanted to get from this. I mean, obviously you can't tell from a 30-second. They're going to give you something.
Absolutely, 100%.
So I have no idea. But here's the thing. I'm like, I trust in James Wan.
Yeah.
I mean, I the guy's never really disappointed me. And I think back to things that he doesn't get enough credit for, like the action film he made with Kevin Bacon. Death, what's it called?
Oh, yeah, where he played like a vigilante.
Yeah,
the
which
guy
I
who
loved.
Killed his family,
I'm like, James Wan knows what's up. Trust in James Wan.
By the way, that was a fun little movie.
Yeah, I know.
That one with Kevin Bacon. That was actually pretty and devastating too.
I want to say Death Proof, but that's not. That's Tarantino.
Yeah, that was Tarantino. Didn't love Death Proof.
No, I
as a matter of
didn't
fact,
either.
myself. Anyway, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to our YouTube channel members. Well, first for being YouTube channel members and supporting everything that we do here, but also for sending in some great topics. I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora,
Hey.
Jonathan Voico,
See you later.
writer, director, producer, and soon periodical journalist. We'll talk more about that when we are able to. Robert Meyer Burnett. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.